Jetson device. I have a Raspberry Pi. This is the Raspberry Pi. And then this is the, if I can, the Jetson. So that little device is like 5 inches. It has a GPU Orin NX 16 gigs. So that's what I've been showing lately. The way to communicate to these GPUs is using CUDA. So I have a repo and a VS Code. Maybe make it bigger. Let's show everything. Is that better for people to see? So yeah, I'm using the the VS Code to connect to it. I have a repo where I'm sharing all the files on the Markdown files and examples that I've been doing. And last thing that I tried was using Kind to be able to run Kubernetes on the Jetson Media. It worked, but I couldn't access the GPU from the control plane Docker container that is running Kind, the Kind controller. I found out that there's no support to talk to get the container D from that Docker to talk down to the GPU. So the next option was to run something like K3s or just plain Kubernetes. With K3s, I did it. It kind of worked, but was not using the GPU because I need to figure out how can I modify the container D of K3s. And I think it's a matter of adding the NVIDIA runtime into it. But I wanted to use the container D that I have working in my Linux operating system. And that one, it wasn't working with Kubeadm. So the first problem that I hit when I was doing Kubeadm, and I can show the example of Kubeadm. Anyone familiar with Kubeadm? Do you guys know what that is? Or maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. I heard someone saying
Jack, I tried to talk and you were muted.
I'm muted. Nobody can listen to me.
No, Jack is muted.
No, we can hear
Oh, okay.
you.
I think he's hitting the cookie.
Are you saying Kubeadm?
Yes, Kubeadm.
Oh well, that's how I install Kubernetes. That's how I install Kubernetes. It's instead of using Minikube or Kind, if you have a real cluster, you use Kubeadm to install it.
Yeah, they all are real. But yes, to install it. Have you used it yourself? I was kind of asking. Like,
well, for me, I have in my base 3 Dell servers installed in a cluster using Kubeadm.
Oh, okay, cool. So you went to the process of
I also run a VMs with Kind on it. Yeah. But, yeah.
Oh, cool. How did you set up what are you using for the networking on Kubeadm? The cluster Calico or for the CNI, for the networking?
For my home networking, I'm using 3 Dell servers running in a cluster that's built using Kubeadm.
Yes.
When I'm doing experiments and things, I create a VM, and inside the VM I run Kind.
Oh yeah. But the Kubeadm, how do you configure the CNI? Which CNI you're using the networking?
Oh, what did I use? Calico or whatever? I don't know. Whatever the default install. Nothing fancy.
Okay. Yeah. There's no default, but that's that's one of the things to when you're using Kubeadm to figure out is like you have to get the machine with container D of the container runtime. It could be cryo. Yeah. Another requirement is you have to pick a CNI, right, to connect to it to get IP addresses assigned. So I went to their process to install Kubeadm. Basically, you install the prereqs. Then you do a apt install, and then you get these three things: Kubeadm, and kubectl. This is similar to what you do if you taking the exam, certification exam for the CKA, the Certified Kubernetes Administration. Not the CKAD. You don't have to deal with this on the CKAD, I believe. Am I correct? I think so. I need to renew all my certifications. And then Kubelet will be installed as a systemd service, and you can like enable it, but it will be like looking for it's staying not stable, but this is optional. You can do it this time or later. The thing that I hit was when I did the kube init. Where's that command? I think it's here. When I did the kube init, it failed on one of the prereqs check, and it was complaining that cry. It couldn't find the. It was finding the containerd socket, which is located in var run containerd socket. If you can see here at the bottom, it was finding it, but it was coming back with an error saying like, oh, there's a v1 runtime is not working. And then searching, this is the configuration I had with containerd last week that was working with Olama. So it was as simple as this one. So when you install the Jetpack and this Linux operating system, I went ahead and deployed Docker deploy containerd from apt. It configured the config file, the TOML for containerd in this way. And as you can notice, it came with this line: disable plugins, I don't know, CRI, container runtime interface. But the structure was a v1 structure. And that was okay. So I have the GPUs working and everything. If you are around Docker or I can run container or kubectl, it was using NVIDIA. So what it does is if you set the default to be NVIDIA, the other one, the runtime to be NVIDIA, you have to set the type to be run CV2. And then this is kind of like they call it a hook. So instead of running the real run C, it will be running this NVIDIA binary. So that was working. So the instructions I found online was because cry was disabled. So I uncomment this, restarted containerd, try it again, and it also it kind of like found it, but it was not working. And the next thing that I tried, a lot of people were saying that if you run something like containerd itself, this is a feature of containerd, if I can find it, have a command called config. I think it's config. And then it will like generate you like a configuration like this. So if I run it with config, and you can say dump or default, it would generate you the TOML for containerd. But the trick with this one was that what it generates, all this stuff, is version 2. So all the structure is different. So I went ahead and I like tried to put this in, and I was able to put it in. And where is it? This one. I put it in, and then but it doesn't have the NVIDIA stuff. So I went ahead and added the NVIDIA with the commands I was showing before was the NVIDIA CTK, and this would inject the right information. So what happened was this result. So in containerd TOML, it doesn't work here. Code etc containerd config TOML. it came up and everything, but it wasn't using the GPU because of I didn't put the hook. So once I put the hook, basically I was able to read this version 2 format. I was impressed. And then I added the NVIDIA. It was the same one that you get from Containerd, but injected this portion of the plugin, this NVIDIA section. And then the sandbox is pod sandbox. I think that's the default, but it added like the thing that we had before. So this is the important part. And then it added this portion, NVIDIA options became. So if you compare this to what I had before, this is the kind of stuff I was trying to look information online. So this is the short version. So I added the runtime, NVIDIA binaries, and I think they need to match. Where was it? I think I lost it. The binary name, and then the runtime. It was not there, but it looks like I didn't need it that for NVIDIA, and it was not working still. So I needed to change the default runtime like I did in the Docker. So I went ahead and changed the cry container the default runtime. I switched this to NVIDIA. And now I was using, if I created a container with CrowdCTL, it was using NVIDIA out of the box. So for example, this is another command to show. So if you run CrowdCTL and you do something like, there's many things like when you work with Kubernetes, you don't use Docker CLI, you use CrowdCTL. You can specify the socket that you want to use with -r or runtime. If not, it will use that default one. But then you can do things like pull, remove an image, remove a container. You can do pods. You can do PS to see the containers. So that's the one I was using, or run a container even. So in this case, I don't think I have anything running right now, or it's stopped. But I was able to do that. And the last thing for this that I figure out, I'm putting all this in docs, is Kubeadm was able to run, Kubelet was able to run, Containerd was running, but containers were getting killed for some reason. Like the sandbox container couldn't get information from the pod sandbox container that gets created with every container in Kubernetes. That's the kind of like the, I think that's kind of like the pause container, also called sandbox. Is that correct, Eric? Do you know pause and sandbox are the same thing? I think so. I'm not 100% sure. I'm 90% sure. But it was getting killed. And after trying many things, I remember that when you use Containerd in recent versions of Kubernetes, when it switched the default from like running Containerd straight to run Containerd through systemd, you have to tell kubelet about systemd. And I double check, and I'm going to show where that is in a second. And then I found that was looking, I think it was one of the forums, and I found that the runtime for NVIDIA here was set to false. Systemd cgroup for running cgroup. It's cgroup. It's not Containerd. My bad. It's cgroup. I was getting confused. Cgroup. It's changed from, and even I don't know if it was with cgroup v2, but it switched to systemd. So you have to tell kubelet to know about systemd system group. So this thing was false, and this is the thing that made it work, that the container didn't crash. So I switched this to true, restarted, double check that the kubelets had system group. So in kubelet, if you look for what is it? I can open this thing here. No, cat. where is this kubelet? It's in var, right? Lib kubelet config. You also have to make sure, and at least this Kubeadm got it correct. So the secret driver needs to be systemd for the kubelet. So it looks like both containerd and kubelet, they need to know that you're going to be using systemd. So you need systemd here and here, and that's what made the containerd not trash the Kubernetes cluster. So with that, I don't know if this thing is still running, but let's see. I can show a demo. Questions on containerd? If you know more containerd stuff, I appreciate the help, because I think I need to figure out something else with IP addresses. Anyone an expert with containerd? Maybe add reach out to some folks in the community. So let's see if this thing is running. So containerd is running, kubelet is running, containerd is running, but I still have problems with core DNS and DNS, but I got very far. So I think next week we show the DNS thing. So if I want to run Olama, basically I can do, I have an example here I was showing. So you can create, the first thing to create is the PVC. Remember the what we did last week? So in this case, I switched this to be the folder where I have the models. So if I do ls,
I'm sorry, Carlos. Can I interject?
Go ahead.
So when I set up Kubeadm, I set it up for version 1.29. Of course, now 1.3 now, right? So I'm behind.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I had used containerd, because before I was using Docker. And I learned about a secret command line. Everyone knows about it but me. What's it called? CRI-CTL.
Yep, CRI-CTL. That's the one I was showing.
Called, and another one called CTR. And there were places where I had to use that command line. I help you or no or not. There were places where I had to. So in the old days, I would, instead of containerd, there'd be Docker there, and I'd have to use the Docker command line sometimes to fix stuff. And I don't. So, anyways, CRI-CTL was new to me when I had to set up a Kubeadm, and I see you were using that. So I think there's a little bit of a learning curve going from Docker to Key when you're setting up using Kubeadm. And but that was just the first time for me. But luckily for me, it all worked. I wasn't doing anything fancy with these GPUs, which I love. I love it that you're doing this, because I'm going to make this work someday for myself.
Thank you. So yeah, you can use CTR, CTL, this one, or CTR. Those are the two ones that you can talk directly to containerd. Another one is called nerd-CTL. If you want to learn about another one, nerd-CTL is another one that has a little bit of like that, what you're saying, like learning curve from Docker. So it feels a little bit like Docker, that the commands almost match, that then you can do kind of like build and run, and then point it to the containerd sockets, and then it will work. nerd-CTL will be the next tool that I use. I use all three when I'm debugging things, and I think they added.
So when you do with kind, and when you do stuff with kind and Minikube and stuff, some of the stuff just doesn't show up. And when you get into Kubeadm and you're setting up, for, I'll just say real scaling, you end up running into these tools. And we're introducing or surveying the version 1.3.1 and being removed. I wonder how many things I'm using that have been removed. I hope none.
Already none, because you saw it's only like
I don't use
embedded
self,
CSI, and it was a cloud
storage.
provider. So you're running on Dell. Yeah, Kubeadm, it should not be any problems. And 131 is not out. It's RC1. So I think in a couple of weeks or this week it will be out. But just a heads up on that.
No, thank you. Thank you.
I don't know why CRTL was running yesterday. It's not running for me. That's weird because I have containers running, and this is the right socket, and that's the warning. So I don't know why. Oh, I know why. It's permission denied. I'm not reading, right? It's like the problem is like person doesn't know how to read. So I cannot. I'm permission denied. I cannot read the socket. So I have to use sudo. I think that's why I was. If you saw me, I was reading as root. So I do sudo su me being lazy, right? As everyone else. I want to be just root. If you don't know the command, here it is now. That's how you become root. Like, and then I'll be able to do. This is how I was debugging K3s-CTL, because I feel dumb like running the command and not showing you anything. So these are the containers that I was trying to debug last time. Without the system D, these things were coming up and crashing, as you can see, I was working 13 hours ago. So they were flapping, like deleting and just crashing and deleting. And it was not until I told container D about using C group in system D that I got it working. And I maybe open an issue to improve that, maybe in the docs of the NVIDIA container toolkit. Somebody got me in contact with that team. So I'll see if I can, the things that I'm learning here, we can improve the docs and the guidance with working with Jetson. But anyway, this is what you want to see. I think also Jack says that you can use, I usually use K3s-CTL, CR, what was the other one? CRT? No, CTR? That CTR. I don't know if it's going to see the, is this one? No, I don't think it's yeah, container DCLI. How do I list the containers? I think just C. And then LS. And why am I not getting anything here? Anyone wants to guess? Anyone?
I don't know.
It's because the namespace is called default. And in Kubernetes, the namespace is called K3s.io. I think I need to pass this before this. I think it's SN K3s.io. There you go. Tell me how many times I searched that in Google.
That looks painful.
So yeah, because in container D, when you're working with Kubernetes, right, we don't want to step on something that is running on the host that is not Kubernetes, that is using the system D, container D, and the way that you don't step on different things is using the concept of workspaces or namespaces. So in container D, it's called -n K3s.io. But if you use crowd, this is the reason I now remember I like to use K3s-CTL, is because you don't have to pass. I don't have to remember the namespace. It's already using the namespace because it's for Kubernetes. And also this one, you can only see container, because for container D doesn't have the concept of pods, for example, but the other one does. So for example, if I do K3s-CTL pods, maybe now I see the pods, right? And I see the namespace and I see the pod information versus running something like PS or Docker PS, right? I don't want to see the containers. You will see the container information, but you will not see like the namespace, for example, or the name of the pod, or if they're ready or not. So this is information more of like that this is what gets surfaced through the kubelet, right? Container D has the information, and then kubelet queries that information, and then kubelet gives back that information to the kube API, and that kube API goes back to the kubectl. Oh my God, like to get this information, you have to go through so many things. Any questions? Clear as mud? Interesting, not interesting? Move on to like see some ChatGPT. Okay, so let's see some.
That's quite interesting. No, go ahead. No.
So basically what I have here is I did a, let's move to that folder just quickly what I did. If I go to this folder called Olama and I do a kubectl apply on the PV, right? I'm creating a persistent volume that mounts a host path, then creating a persistent volume claim that uses that volume. Then if I do a k apply dash f olama dash pvc, now I'm able to access like all the gigs of data that is sitting in the model. Like the models folder is sitting in the host, so I don't want to like download that into a container. I don't want to download it into another different file system. I want to like directly access these models through a PVC, and that's why I'm using host paths. So they're ready. So if I do k get pv dash pvc, we can see they're bound. The PVC is bound, right? So they're taken. And then I create a pod. So let's create a pod with Olama. Where is it? Olama.yaml. So I have a pod here that is running the Olama, like I mentioned last week, the Olama that works on Jetson with CUDA, which is from Dusty NV. If I use the order, the Olama doesn't have the patch. The port for seeing the port, like I like to put the port because like it's not 8080, it's not 80. And then I'm mounting that volume claim and on /data. So by default, Olama is looking in /data for the models. If you don't put a volume mount from a PVC, then it will start downloading models and put it into the ephemeral space of the container. And then you got a disk space, or depending what disk space our capacity is set up in the kubelets. So that's why we did that. So if we do k apply dash f olama .yaml, we should have a pod. If we do get pods dash we let me see. I think we have, yeah, I think we have both running. I have Olama running. And then what we want to do is access Olama, which I can access directly here. One way of testing, you can say kexec it Olama. Let's see. The pod name dash bash. I'm inside now, so I can use the Olama client to talk to the Olama that is Olama serve that is running. And I can do things like Olama run, actually list the models, because I don't want to download them. It takes some time. So I can do Olama, and I can do Olama list. And I have 3 models. So you see how big they're, these models. Like Llama 3 is 4.7 gigs. Llama 3 Grok tool use AB is Llama 3.1, which is another 4 gigs. And then Tiny Llama is 63 megs. But that one is quantized very small. So we can do Olama Mistral or something else, or what all the models that they have. But let's try maybe this one. And then it will not download it. It would just like find that the model is there. It's just loaded into memory, and then you can ask questions. So what do you want to ask? To tell us a joke?
It was
again,
fairly
Jack?
quick to load it in the. By the way, it was fairly quick to load it in the memory. I wasn't.
It's not loading the 4 gigs into memory, I believe, right?
Okay.
I think it's. I'm not sure. Don't quote him on that, but I'm guessing that it's not
Just
loading the 4 gigs into memory.
creating a pointer to it, probably. Okay.
Yeah.
How was the response times here? Just ask a question.
The response time of what?
Messages, I mean.
Yeah, we can. I think. Let me say bye here. Like response time of tokens. So if I do, I think it dash V, or what's the one that shows the logs? I think there was one that was verbose. Is it -v? There was one that gave us like the information. Remember last time that we did raw llama that give us like at the end, it give us like how many tokens per second it did. Let me see if I can find it online very quickly. Or we can ask Olama. Olama verbose. Or maybe I need to start the serve with verbose. Run verbose. Yeah. So it's not in the help. So it's dash. That should add it to the help verbose. Okay. So let's see how many. I think this is what you were asking for, right? Response time. How many seconds? So what should we ask? I think I was asking it to what should we ask? Now we don't know anything to ask. GPU. I think last night I said like create me a React JS project for a to-do app. Include all the files as individual files. And then it's super faster than the Raspberry Pi, right? So it's doing.
Yeah, it's pretty
these are the files, and then it's creating the app.js. And then the reason I did this is because it's a little bit long. So I have JTop running here, so you can see the GPU now it says 99.9%. This is a validation I was doing the other day that when I was running all these containers and running in kind, the GPU was not used, was CPU, so the model was very slow to respond. In this case is faster, and you can see like the GPU is like 99% of the GPU is used. The reason that you see swap off in here also in the JTOP is because of Kubernetes, right? I did the swap off for the kubelet. Kubernetes actually, the kubelet supports memory swap. Recently, you just need to pass the feature flag, so I may do that. But by default, usually you put swap off because you don't want to overcommit memory on the containers for kubelet. If we go back to here, this thing is still giving us more React.js. So if you want to learn React, ask your GPT and it will give you like, here's all the source code. I also asked things like in Terraform and Kubernetes. I asked, I think that's the one I have. I think I closed it, but I'll show in a minute. I asked like, give me, oh, here it is, the answer. Low duration tokens, 68 tokens per second. That's the evaluation rate, prompt evaluation rate. I think that's the number, or is it this one at the bottom? 6.8 tokens per second, the evaluation rate. But these are the stats of like how long it took to do all those things. So it took a minute and a half. So before we run out of time, let me show you. If you want to run the GUI, basically, let me exit from that container. We can run there's a web UI project called the Open Web UI. So I have another deployment here, another pod, but now you have to tell it like, hey, talk to Olama in this URL. So DNS is not working for me on this cluster. So, but the addressability of the pods and the networking is working. So if I do get pods, so I'll fix this next week. But what I wanted to put here was just Olama, because that's the name of the service that I created in here. Is Olama on this cluster IP, but it didn't work, so I had to put the pod of the IP of the pod. So I put it here with the port number, and then I did a k apply -f Olama -UI. Also did the k apply -f Olama -service. So that was there. It's like this is like the service in Kubernetes. And then I did so now both are running Olama UI. And basically you can just access with a service ingress or just IP address. But if I want to run it, I can do kubeproxy, which I'm doing here. So I'm running the kubeproxy on port 8080. And since I'm using VS Code, I can go here and open it in my browser, and it's coming up. And then I think I had this one. I found this concept asking your content marketer create trend short tweets. I created this one saying create me a EKS cluster, full EKS cluster with Terraform. I created this one that it was generate a install Kubernetes on Ubuntu 22 using Kubeadm, using Flannel, using Containerd, using systemd, have scripts and alias to check the logs for all the systemd. So we can run this again. I can put it here. I need to select the model that I want. So this is to verify that actually seeing the models that I have in Olama. So it's communicating with Olama.
So it also checks the existing models on.
Yeah. So if you don't have a model, then you can download a model, or just the ones that already did like a pull or a run, so they're cached. So it's asking.
Yeah. So I'm guessing.
It's doing an Olama list models and basically give me back the list that I saw earlier.
Can see the Olama CTL.
Yeah, we can ask the same thing here, like generate a full, I don't know, Python web app. Maybe we'll do React. We'll do Angular JS app for a to-do app with all the files. And I started like, so in the Raspberry Pi, I'm using CPU, takes longer. But now that I have a GPU, I can use it, and I was double checking that I was using the GPU, so it was in terminal here. Let me put this down. So it's using the GPU. The two containers are running in Kubernetes. It's using Containerd. The default runtime is NVIDIA, and I'm not running the NVIDIA device plugin. I'm not running the kubelet with the device plugin or operator of GPU. Those things you will use in a Kubernetes cluster. Like if you have multiple nodes with multiple, some of them may have GPUs or not. So you want to label which nodes have GPU. Also for the kubelet to know if the GPUs are like, they have errors or not, or which ones are available. There's a communication between the kubelet and the device framework. But in my case, I made the default runtime Containerd just have NVIDIA. This is what I showed at the beginning. NVIDIA runtime hook as default. So any container that you run with Containerd will have the NVIDIA and access to the GPU. So that's why out of the box on this simple environment just works. And now it's done with all the information here. So that's how far I got. DNS, I think, is because I was using Flannel and the IP address was taken. So I needed to delete it and rebridge. And if I run Kubeadm reset again and run it again, I bet core DNS will be working, but I didn't want to destroy it just before this session. Questions? Comments?
Carlos, I need to go. This is really cool.
Jack, you have a GPU? You're going to get a GPU?
I don't know. It's a lot of work. I might get an US account and set it up that way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is your for me for learning, right? For easy things, I run a script, I get an EKS cluster with a bunch of GPUs, do my work, and then be done. Right, and that's what end users are doing. Let me see the comments.
Yeah, no, I want to have something at home that I can use without having to have a cloud account, and this is how to do it. It's just a lot of setup.
Yeah,
a lot of setup.
No, I think it's all the things as I continue to find the answers in the forums and everything. People have been doing it for a while. It's just There's no single canonical place that people keep updating as new versions of Jetpack come out. So I'm going to work with the Jetpack team in NVIDIA to see if we can improve that and maybe have some scripts that people just like run the bash script and then everything's set up for you, right? Things that I did manually. And also, if you don't want to get a GPU, you can get like this one. And now they're coming out are the Raspberry Pi AI chips. So you can do AI on this Raspberry Pi module that you put on your Raspberry Pi. So that'll be cheaper than getting a Jetson. I think the Jetson starts at, I don't know if it was 200 or 300. This thing cost, I think it was $80 or something like that.
Yeah, we were
for the Raspberry
hoping
Pi.
to gift one device to some attendee.
Yeah,
right?
we're working on that. Yeah. It's hard to, I talked to Catherine and it's difficult to allocate that specifically.
Oh, okay. Budget issues.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Carlos, thank you very
we're
much.
out of time. I don't want to hold anyone, but yeah,
it's really good.
Yeah, see you, Jack. See you, Eric. See you, everyone.
Great job, Carlos.
Thank you so much.
This
very
looks
good.
brilliant.
So
Thank you.
yeah, let me know if you want to continue doing this hacking on Kubernetes, Linux devices. We can do that, or we can do another chapter next week. So sorry we didn't plan ahead this week. So see you next week.
See you. Yeah, let's talk on the channel. Thank you.
Yep.
And
Okay,
see you, everybody.
bye.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Bye.